Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 9 of the Christmas Craft Countdown, where I'm releasing a new Christmas craft every day for 20 days. Today we're back to greetings cards and I've got 2 layered greetings card designs for you. They're kind of similar in their nature, but there is a key difference. So this one over here is a snow scene. We've got Santa and his reindeer going along the top, and then it says Merry Christmas, and then you've got all of the lovely snow-covered houses underneath. The other design is for those of you who have Christmas in your summertime. So this is a beach scene. We've got palm trees along the side, we've got the sun coming up over the ocean, and then of course some candy canes and gifts at the bottom. So let's see how to put together these layered greetings cards. First, you need to download the cutting file to make this project. If you aren't already signed up to the Christmas Craft Countdown, go to craftwithsarah.com/Christmas 2021 to join. If you have already purchased the countdown, go to craftwithsarah.com/login to log in to your account and access all of the Christmas Craft Countdown files. Once logged in, click into the Christmas Craft Countdown. Scroll down the page and all the files will become available on the date specified. The files do not expire, so you can download them at any time. The files for both of these greeting card designs are under the Day 9 heading. After downloading the cutting files, you'll need to unzip the folder that they come in. If you aren't sure how to do that, check the link in the description of this video, which contains instructions on how to unzip folders on Windows computers, Macs, and Android and iPhone devices. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get those SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, and then over on the left-hand side, click Upload. Next, go into Upload Image, and then you can either click Browse to find the file on your computer, or you can drag and drop it in. For Cricut Design Space, you want to upload the SVG version of the greetings card files. There are several different file versions included in the download folder for those with other cutting machines other than a Cricut. But as you're using Design Space, and I'm assuming you have a Cricut, it's the SVG file that you want. I name all my SVG files so that they start SVG in the file name, just to make it really clear which one you need to upload. I'm going to show you how to do it with the snow themed card. So let's drag and drop that SVG file in. And then this is what it should look like. So you can see you've got all of the layers appearing in the correct position, just like how it would if you'd cut it out and stuck everything together. If yours looks different and instead of it looking like this, you see all of the layers one next to each other, that means you've accidentally uploaded the wrong file. So if that's the case, click Cancel down on the bottom right and then try again and make sure you upload the one which starts SVG. Going to go ahead and click Upload, and then this card will appear once it's uploaded in my recent uploads, so I can click it to get that green border and then press Add to Canvas down on the bottom right. Here's my greetings card, and it should load in at the correct size, but it's always a good idea to check. So these cards have been designed to be 5 by 7 inches when they are cut, which means the width is 7 inches as it's a landscape card, and then the height will be 10, and that's because we've got the base card here which will fold down the middle, and once that's folded then it will make the 5 by 7 inch card. I haven't included a score line on these SVG files, and that's because at the moment when you try and put a score line into Design Space from a file that is created elsewhere, it's actually loading in as a cut line. And I didn't want to give you a file with a random cut line down the middle in case you didn't realize that it needed converting to a score line and it just cut a big line down the middle of your project. That would not have been good. Luckily, it's really simple to add score lines in Design Space, so I'll show you how to do that. Click on the file so we've got it selected, and then over on the right hand side, press Ungroup. This has now separated out all of our layers, which means we can add that score line to the very bottom. To make it easier to see what I'm doing, I'm going to move this over out of the way and then drag a box around all of the other layers and press Group to group these. And that's just so I can keep them all nicely separate for the time being. To add a scoreline, go into Shapes and then choose Scoreline. It looks like this, and you see it's a dashed line which indicates that this is a score. So let's click on it, and then first we need to rotate it 90 degrees. So in the rotate box, type in 90 and press enter on your keyboard. We need to make it the same width as our card, which is 7 inches. So in the height box, type 7, press enter on your keyboard, and now this is the right length. We need to put this scoreline exactly in the middle of the greetings card blank. So click it to select it, press Shift on your keyboard, and then choose the big card blank rectangle. We've now got both of those layers selected, so under Align, press Center, and that's perfectly positioned that scoreline. There's one more thing we need to do, which is to attach the scoreline to the base card. Attach is what tells the Cricut that we actually want that scoreline to be scored down the middle of the rectangle. If you didn't attach these layers, your Cricut would just do a random scoreline on your cardstock next to the rectangle, which is no good. We need it to be in the middle where we've just put it. I've still got both of those layers selected, so I can just go down to the bottom and press Attach. You could cut this out now without rearranging it, but if you want to, you can put the other layers back on top of the card just to check you're happy with how it's all looking. Now that we've attached it, it's moved these layers to the top. So to put them behind our other cardstock layers, go into Arrange and then Center Back. And now that's appearing underneath. The easiest way to line these up again is to press Select All and then go into Align, Align Left, and then Align, Align Bottom. And now that's perfectly positioned those again. If you wanted to resize your card now, you'll need to group everything again. So go to Select All and then Group. And now everything's in one group, so when you resize it, everything resizes in proportion. But I'm actually just going to undo that resize because I want to cut mine to make a 5x7 inch card. So this is now all ready for me to go and click Make It and then follow the instructions to cut everything out with my Cricut. So I'm going to cut this one out and then I'll load in the summer themed card and do exactly the same with the scoreline. Cut that one out and then let's see how to stick it all together. Here are my two cards cut out and I've roughly placed everything where it's going to go just to make sure I'm happy with the colours and to make sure I've not missed anything. I'll start with the snow scene, so let's move the beach out the way for a moment and then let's have a look at what we've got. So I'm just going to move all these little pieces out the way to start with, and I'll keep the letters in order just so that I know I haven't lost any along the way when it comes to sticking them together, and then just separate out all my layers so that I can stick them all down. Here's my very base layer, which I've just folded down that scoreline that we added in. And then the first layer to stick is this Merry Christmas. And this one I'm going to glue to my base card. So I'm going to turn it over and add the glue to the back. The glue I like to use is called Collall, and the reason I like it is that it doesn't bend or wrinkle the card like some other glues can do. And I put it into these needle tip bottles, which just makes it easier to get into all the small spaces. Other glues that work great for papercraft projects are Art Glitter Glue, which doesn't actually have any glitter in it, and Bearly Art Glue. And Bearly is spelt as in the animal, and then LY on the end. So any of those glues are great. I've added quite a bit of glue to the back of here, and then I can stick it to my card. Make sure your score line, your fold line is at the top so that it will open. Don't stick it on upside down. And then I'm going to just push that down. Now if you wanted to, you could leave your Merry Christmas like this with it all in white, but I'm going to add the red letters that cut out to the middle. And for this, it's easiest to add the glue into the middle of the letters that are on the card, rather than trying to stick each little red piece on separately. My glue dry is quite quick, so I'm going to do the Merry first and then move on to the Christmas. And I love this because the letters perfectly fit into that gap. So it's a little bit like doing a jigsaw puzzle. You can just find the right letter and push it down, and then they'll line up. And this font is really nice because it's got little gaps in the letters, so you can see that white coming through it. And giving them a good push down to make sure they really stick and get in those holes so that it's not going to come up again. So that's my Merry. And then I need to do the Christmas. And as if by magic, that is done. The next layer to add is the houses along the bottom. And for this one, we're going to use some 3D foam pads. These are the ones I'm using, which are from Dot & Dab, but there are loads of different brands available and they all work well. So these ones are really tiny, which is going to work perfectly to get into all of these little borders. But if your foam pads are a bit big, then you can cut them down with scissors. These are actually the perfect size to go on without overlapping. You don't want your foam pads to overlap because otherwise you'll see them when we stick this onto the card. And you do not want to be able to see them from the other side. I'm adding quite a few along these edges because if I was just to put one in each of the corners, then the middle of that top would sag down and it just wouldn't look very good because it wouldn't be a nice straight line. So it might seem a bit wasteful to be adding all these foam pads, but actually you do need them to create the stability on the card all the way around. And the same goes for this bottom bit. You want to make sure that you've got your foam all along the edge. And then I also want to put some in the middle, again for that stability, so that when the other bits of card are put on top, it's got a nice firm sort of ledge to sit on. Oops, be very careful you don't do what I just did and nearly rip it. Alright, so now I'm peeling the tops off of these teeny tiny foam pads, which might take me a little moment. Now I can turn this over and bring my card back in, and then I'll line it up along the bottom and then just drop it down, check I'm happy, and then push down to seal. See, I actually have been a little bit messy with my foam pads. I probably should have cut them a little bit smaller. They're poking out just a tiny bit along the top, but I could probably go in with some scissors and just trim them, or a scalpel maybe. I think it's fine. Next, I will add the houses on top, which will just show the windows through. And for this one, you could either glue it or you could foam it. I'm going to glue it because I don't want my card to be so thick that it will be expensive to post. So in the UK, your postage base, your stamps are based on how big and how thick your card is. So I don't want to make it so thick with all the layers that it will need a larger stamp. And put some glue on the back. Just missed the card there and got my table. Not very clever. Bring the card back. And then stick this on. Line it up. There. Next, I've got the snow on top, which is going to go like this. And again, you can use foam or you can use glue. I'm going to use glue again because I really don't want this to be too thick. Also, if you're making lots of these, so if you were maybe making everyone the same card, then gluing does tend to be a little bit quicker than adding the foam pads. So if you're making lots of them, then I'd recommend the gluing, but definitely do the foam for the yellow layer so that you get a little bit of depth to your card. Just lining that up. There, that is looking lovely. So there's just one thing left to add, and that is, oops, Santa with his reindeer. And for this one, I'm going to turn it upside down and pop it up with some foam pads. Again, I probably should be cutting these a little bit smaller, but they just about fit. There we are. And then this just slots in between all of the snow to have Santa flying over the top of the Merry Christmas. Now, if you wanted to, you could add a little gemstone or colour the little red nose in on Rudolph. But I think I'm going to keep mine like this. So there is my first layered card done, and it's time to move on to the beach scene. The beach scene one goes together in much the same way, but I will show you how to do it, as it does have a few extra pieces. So again, here's my base card, and I've already folded it down that score line. And then we have all of the other layers. Oops, I'm dropping bits. Let's try and get organised. So we're going to start with this one, which is our sunshine. And for this one, I'm going to glue it down. And that's mostly because it's got this Merry Christmas outline on, so we know where to line up the words a bit later. And that's quite thin and fiddly, so I didn't want to have to add the foam pieces there. The card will still have lots of lovely depth in it by the time we've added the other layers. And this one actually will end up a little bit thicker than the wintry one, because I'll add a few more layers of foam pads. So there, I've put the glue in all of those letter pieces to make sure they're not going to rip or come apart from the base. So now I can line this up and then carefully stick it down, because I don't want any of that glue to smush out the sides, so I'm pushing it down gently. There. Okay. So next we've got this C, which is going to come over like this. And again, because of that Merry Christmas, I will glue this one. So turn it upside down and I'll add the glue. Getting in all of these little areas. I should not be gluing this on top of the card that I'm actually making. That's a very silly thing to do, and prone to getting glue on the card, so don't do that. Don't do what I do. Alright, that's all of those letters done. So now I can stick this on the top. Like that. And then we can add the letters. So I think it'll be easier to add the glue to the letters themselves that are already there, a bit like what we did with the snow card. Or of course, if you wanted, you don't have to cover these up. You could just leave them in the yellow and blue. I do think it looks quite nice in those colours. But seeing as my lovely Cricut went to all this effort of cutting out the white letters, I'd better use them. I don't want it to get mad at me. Alright, there's the Merry, and now I'm going to add the Christmas. Oops, had a big blob of glue come out then. It's made a little bit of a mess. So, normally I'd go a little bit slower than this and be more careful, but I don't want you to have to watch me gluing for ages upon ages. Alright, this is very fiddly this Christmas because it's quite a long word and the letters are all joined up, so you might need to just wiggle it about to get it to all go where it's supposed to. A pair of tweezers or something like that might be helpful to help pick it up, but I tend to just do it with my fingers. Okay, there we go, there is that text all lined up and stuck down. Now we can move on to the next layer, and I think I've managed to glue my card to my work surface. Not very clever. Alright, next is the sand at the bottom, and this time I'm going to use a little bit of foam. We need some depth on this card. So just like before, add the foam to all the way along the edges and into all of the little pictures too. There's all my foam pads. Again, you can see there are quite a few. And now I need to peel these tops off to release all of the sticky underneath. Now we can carefully pick it up and then stick it onto what's already there. I've just managed to pull one of the foam pads off, so stick that back on and then line up along the bottom. I haven't done that very well. I'm not sure if you can see on the video, but it's not quite lining up. So because I only just carefully dropped it down, I can pick it up again without damaging everything and give it a second attempt. So I'm going to actually try lining it up with the palm trees this time. This is quite fiddly. Okay. Did a better job that time. Still not amazing because it's a little bit bent here, but that is better than I had the first time. Next we have this green one which is going to fill in the palm trees, and this time I will glue it. I glue again, my little bottle's running out, I'll have to refill it soon. Even though these bottles are tiny, they do actually last quite a long time. And of course they're refillable, so when it's empty I can just fill it up again from the big bottle of the Kalau glue. I'm still on my first little bottle, as in little needle tip bottle. I think there were 12 in the pack, and I've had it, oh gosh, probably nearly a year. And yeah, still on the first one, so that is really good value. Obviously I filled it lots of times, but the actual bottle is still the first. Line this up. There we go. Now mine is showing a bit of yellow over here, and that's because my card caught when I was cutting it and it ripped a little bit. So I just had to take a bit of that green out. So yours won't have that. Yours will be a lovely, beautiful border colour. We've got 2 layers left now, which is the white and the red to go on top. And for the white layer, this solid one, I will use my foam pads again. This one won't need as many because it's a lot smaller than that last one. But I still want to make sure I get into all of the little sticky out bits on the layer to give it a firm, good stick. And then one in the middle. Now I can peel the tops off. And then stick this so it lines up against the green for these 3 pictures in the middle. There we go. And then lastly is the red detail on top, and this one will be glued. This is quite a tricky layer because the detail around the top of the stocking and the bow are quite thin, and also the edges of this candy cane. So just be really careful with your glue that you don't make a mess, basically. I pretty much always make a mess, so if you do, it's okay. I'll line that one up there, and then that is my Christmas at the beach card all finished. So if I bring the other one back in, here are the two different designs so you can see them next to each other. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make these layered greetings cards for Christmas. Don't forget to get the files, head to craftwithsarah.com/Christmas 2021. I'll be back again tomorrow with another craft project, but until then, thank you so much for watching. Bye!